because of the feeling people had about the way Katrina was handled. It was almost as if nobody in Washington even saw those people in New Orleans and forgot all about the obligation we have to handle emergencies in a competent way that have nothing to do with politics, just treating people as people. But it's also true you can forget about it when things are going well. If you're not careful in good times, you can think you are somebody if you're president. You forget you're just America's most fortunate hired hand. I mean, come on, think what being president's like. Think about it. They play a song every time you walk in the room. Right? They play Hail to the Chief. After I left the White House, I was lost for 3 weeks because nobody played a song and I didn't know where I was anymore. And then the traffic congestion in Washington is horrible. But the president never waits. You just zip along in that bulletproof limo. You have no commute to work to the world's most famous and beautiful office. You live in the country's finest public housing. And your airplane is so cool they make movies about it. Now, we're all laughing, but I hope you get this last point. The time you spend as president is fleeting, and poof, it's gone. This is a very hopeful and troubling time. This country has profoundly challenging problems. I'd be here for Hillary if we weren't married because she's the best change agent and the best problem solver and has the best heart and mind combination of anybody I've ever known. I'd be here because she's done things with her life as a private citizen and in state government and the White House and in the Senate that make her uniquely qualified to make these changes with you. And I'd be here because I know from 1,000 examples that she'll never forget the look that's in your eyes. Last summer, in the most unusual circumstances, I ran into a fireman who was part of the 9/11 rescue. He was on a golf course, and he was a caddy. He was caddying for these guys that I was playing with, and I was trying to get off the first green, and this guy grabbed me, and he said, "Wait a minute, don't go." I'm not used to being mauled by a caddy, so he says, "You don't know me, do you?" I said, "I don't think so." He said, "That's because I'm not really a caddy." A comedian, a terrorist, what do I got? So he said, "I do this to supplement my income, President Clinton, but in my real life, I'm a captain in the New York City Fire Department." And he said, "You know, before 9/11, most of us firemen thought we were Republicans." I love this guy. He was so upfront. He said, "I mean, after all, what do we need from the government? We had a good job. We had health care. We had retirement. What do we need? We're pretty clannish. We just love all that macho talk they put out. We just like the way they talk." And I appreciate it. He was so honest, and straightforward. And then he got serious. He said, "On that terrible day, when we were dodging the falling towers, desperately trying to find somebody alive, and in the terrible, awful times afterward, we were crawling through rubble trying to identify human remains so families could have some peace," he said, "your wife, my senator, was the first person who knew that a lot of us would get sick, and some of us could die because of what we breathe. You remember what you saw in the air? Asbestos, PCBs, and benzene. That's all that smoky stuff you saw in the air. All cancer-causing agents." He said, "But the president we voted for, and the White House, and the EPA, they said, no way in the world we could get sick breathing that stuff. So they didn't want to give us any money for emergency examination and detection and aggressive intervention. But Hillary knew, and she fought for us, and she got some people to fight with her in the House. And because she fought for us, some of us who would have died are alive. And those of us who didn't make it," he said, "at least our families had the dignity of knowing that in one of our darkest hours, the Congress honored their loved one's service." This guy looked at me and said, "I honestly don't know what I think about politics anymore. But I do know this. That's the kind of person who ought to be president. Somebody who knows what it is like to be me and every other person in this country that ever felt overlooked or ignored or abused." He said, "I'd do anything I could to make a president. That's why you ought to let take out your phone and join. Because you got more tomorrows than yesterdays. We'll be fine. She thinks it's a blessing to be able to serve. She thinks it's a blessing to be able to run. But I am telling you, I've been doing this a long time. You're never going to get a chance to vote for a better candidate, a better change agent, a better combination of mind and heart. Never. If you want these things, you got to help her. Any other candidate would have been blown away by the things she's been through and the things that have been said. She just keeps chugging along just like she has as long as I have known her. Where in the heck the 150,000 or so people came who appeared with $13 million so her campaign could continue on HillaryClinton.com? I do not know. We never raised that kind of money on the internet. But they knew, somehow they knew, deep somewhere in their psyche, that she would be the best president.